Actually, pain is one of the major blocks for most people about being embodied, because if you have not been paying attention to your body for quite a while, it's probably in pain somehow. And so then the first thing that happens when you pay attention to your body is you feel the pain. Ow, why would I want to be focusing on this? And a lot of modern medicine is just numbing pain so we don't have to feel it. But unfortunately, or fortunately, pain is a signal from the body that it needs your attention. It's saying, hey, I need some help over here. Could you focus on this, please? Having some issues. Because when your consciousness focuses on a part of your body, it gives it energy. It brings energy to it, brings blood to it brings electricity to it. And that is inherently helpful to the body tissues. We have to redo our attitude about pain instead of it just being this annoying thing that we have to get rid of. And we have no idea why it's there, and then we can't figure out why it's there or what it wants. Is to greet it with compassion. Go, oh, you're hurting. What can I do for you?
Sometimes, very seldom, I sit with somebody, a teacher or a guide, and listening to their core philosophy, their core teaching, I get that sense that they've dug deep into my soul and are just expounding on that. It's kind of like my inner mind is being expressed through their teaching. Amara Karuna is one of those people. I had this opportunity to sit down with her for about an hour and a half and have this amazing, beautiful, philosophical, poetic conversation. And her core teaching around choosing embodiment and this idea that we're not broken and that we have all the knowledge and the wisdom right there in us. And really, it's just a matter of kind of removing the layers of conditioning and illusion or disillusionment. I did get to learn that she's a prolific author. Just take a look at her Amazon profile. 7 books, and covering everything from poetry and children's books and photography and tantra and healing, nurturing therapy. Her understanding of the body and helping people come into their bodies or remember that they are in their bodies. I had the opportunity to take some classes with her on erotic touch and pelvic work, and I got the opportunity to sit and yab yum with this woman. And I just am incredibly honored and sometimes just blown away by the folks that have come into my life. And Amara is no exception to that. Take some time, get into some comfortable clothes, find a comfortable place, and sit down and listen to the wisdom that this person has to offer the world, and enjoy. Amara, thank you so much for being here.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. And you're sitting there basking in the sun and on the Big Island.
Big Island of Hawaii in the jungle. Yep.
In the jungle. Just a quick, how long have you lived there in this community?
I've lived on and off here for about 17 years on a 24-acre piece of the jungle on the east side in an intentional community.
And it's a beautiful community. I've actually been there, so I'm one of the reasons why I know you. So we are going to talk about healing, presence, and sacred self-acceptance.
Yes.
Sound good?
Yes.
Because, your work spans all of that, the touch and peer counseling, which we're going to get into. What are those things? And tantra, music, and radical self-love. And I've gotten, again, to be able to witness all of that, which is what is exciting me to talk to you today.
Yeah, I'm kind of a healing geek. I like to try everything that has to do with any form of natural healing I have. And then there's a few things that I've gone deeply into.
Yeah, well, I want to get into those things for sure. But what is most alive in you or in your world right now?
In terms of my work?
In terms of your work, or even on a personal level, like what's exciting you?
I'm I feel like mostly what I do is create safe spaces for people to come and connect with themselves and with each other. And that seems extremely relevant right now in the world situation, and how much stress there is and how much angst there is, and people being under so much pressure. So it just feels even more important than it did before. Like we need to come together and go inside ourselves just to survive and thrive in this time period on planet Earth. So that's alive with me. I'm very aware of the larger picture going on, and I am very inspired to offer classes and events. And I kind of wait to see what I get called to do. If I start getting requests for a certain class or a certain kind of work. And the most recent one is I am teaching a class in peer counseling here where I live. So just to train people in basic, what do you do when you have emotions? And what do you do when somebody else has emotions? How do you help them? How do you be more effective at being present with them? And how can we do that without paying $100 an hour to go to a therapist?
Right. So doing kind of therapy in community, is that what I'm hearing? And I know, I mean, I've witnessed it, I've been there. I know that it's not like therapy, but it's very much a way of healing from what I've experienced it.
Sure. When people get skillful at it, it can be very deep therapy, but it's just a basic human skill that we should all have. Like, how do you manage your emotional body? How do you get into an emotion if it's coming up in a safe way? How do you get out of it when it's not a good moment to be in your emotional state? And how do you help other people when they're in the middle of a trigger? I wish they would teach this to everybody in high school.
Yeah, right.
Just seems like really basic.
It's like the consent conversation, these things that just make the communication better and the ability to, like you said, navigate and ride those waves when things are not completely even. And how do we talk to each other?
Right.
So I want to go deeper into that, but I want to sort of backtrack just a little bit into, you put out choosing embodiment. And I know that these really tie into each other, but what does that mean to you, like choosing embodiment? And especially in today's world, sort of where you were talking about a minute ago.
Right. Well, I feel myself as a being, as a soul that is having a human experience in this body. And I experience that this is not the first time I've done it, and it probably won't be the last time. So I don't identify completely. I am not only my body. I am something that goes beyond my body. And I think anyone who's watched someone die will have to consider that idea. Because one moment the person is there and they're breathing, and another moment they're gone.
Right.
And the body is just like a lump of clay. Where did they go? And that transition moment is so profound and intense. So as a spirit, as a consciousness, I can focus my attention in different ways. And where I focus my attention is where the energy goes. Whatever I focus on gets bigger.
Right.
And that includes positive things and negative things. So energy flows where attention goes. So if my attention is always somewhere other than the present moment and this physical experience, there won't be much energy in my body. So I can choose where I want to focus my attention. So if I choose to focus here in this world, in this moment, in this sensory experience, that's what I call embodiment. Like I'm paying attention. I'm feeling how I'm feeling. I'm sensing what's going on around me. And there's many benefits to that.
Well, I just, again, from knowing you a little bit that I do, and I know you've been doing this for many years, it sounds like you've gone through maybe I'm extrapolating, you've gone through a lot of layers of your own learning to be able to get to this place where you are presently. And one of the things that you said somewhere in the information you sent me is that resisting embodiment made you ill. And I'm wondering what that experience was like. and how you moved out of it.
I think that I came into this body with a lot of resistance. I've had visions, various journeys and meditations and rebirthing breath work of the time before I came into the body. And I have a memory of these gentle, loving beings talking to me and going, well, you got some work to do. There's some stuff to clean up. You need to go down and like work on stuff and do some service. I'm like, really? I don't want to. So much nicer not to have that heavy, bulky body to take care of. And they're like, no, okay, I'll go down. And luckily I had a very loving mother, and I had an experience of feeling her love and it kind of sucking me into this warm, golden, orange light. And there I was in the body. But I also had an experience during birth where I felt like I wanted to get out of here. Like, I don't know if I want to do this because of the intensity. And my mother had a spinal block, so there was numbness. And, in a positive, in a healthy birth, a natural birth, the mother and the baby work together to have the birth happen. All of the muscles, everybody's moving together and working together. And I had the experience of like, my mother wasn't there. And it made me want to leave. And I decided, no, I'm going to stay. And I did. But I think that I came in with this feeling like I don't want to be in this body. And I think a lot of people have that feeling, like resistance, like, and why do I have to do the things the body wants me to do? And how can I argue with my body? Like I used to do things like refusing to go pee as long as possible when I was a child. Like, I just don't want to have to take care of it. So there's this soul theme of mine. Wow. And by the time and also things like, I want to be able to eat as much junk food as I want to, and sugar, and have that not have any problem.
Right.
Like, why can't I do this?
Why can't I have whiskey every night for dinner?
Yeah. Why can't I have, why do I have these physical limits? And so by the time I was 18, I was pretty darn sick. And I was trying to go to college, and I was missing 2 or 3 days a week, because I was having all kinds of issues and illnesses and stomach cramps and whatever. So I had to go on a long journey of figuring out why I was sick, what was wrong. And one of the first things I did was work on my food addictions and try to get off of sugar, which was not easy because I didn't know anything about counseling or much of anything. I was only like 18, but I had some success. And then I went to a psychic institute, the Berkeley Psychic Institute, which really helped me a lot. And they taught me about grounding into my body, and specifically, and we could do this for a moment right now, because this is like the most useful meditation that they taught me. And they told me, I took a year class with them. They said, if you don't learn anything else but this, it'll be worth it. And I believe them. And so what you do is you just take a deep breath and you exhale.
Okay.
And you imagine your energy settling down into your body, like you would settle down into an easy chair, and tune into the sensations in your body. Feel the pressure where you're sitting. You can notice how your chest moves when you breathe. What are the sensations on your skin? And can you feel all the way down into your body, down to your fingertips and toes? How many times do you think about your toes? Most of us live like from the neck up, and our body's just this thing dangling below our neck. Unless you're a very physical person, you're an athlete, you work with your body a lot. A lot of people in Western culture are like that. And so you could take another deep breath and go even deeper and imagine energy streaming down your spine and out and down into the earth, like you're growing a root, a taproot, like a tree. And that energetic connection acts kind of like a grounding cord does in construction, so that any energy that comes at you just goes through and down into the earth, because the earth is really great at recycling things. And so this is useful if you're feeling anxious, if you can't go to sleep, if you're having pain in your body. It's usually stuck energy. So what the Psychic Institute helped me do was understand energy and understand how I can move energy with my breath and my mind.
Your awareness. Yeah.
My awareness. And just doing it for a moment, how did that feel to you?
I mean, yes, that is a really, that taking that moment to really become aware of all the sensations and the pieces. I think that's an incredibly valuable piece of that. It's like, oh yeah, there are my toes and there are my fingertips and there's my
Yeah.
butt in the chair. And then that, that I love that visualization of, sending the root down and rooting into the planet, into the earth, because
It's
go ahead.
it's so useful. It's
Mm.
it's it's also called earthing. You can do it by just taking your shoes off and putting your feet on the ground.
No. That's some more
That
stuff there.
uh,
No, I'm so much I've been a barefoot person for 30 years, and so it's just
yeah,
I'm
because
so
the earth has a Schumann resonance. It has I think it's like 8.5 cycles per second
Mhm.
or something like that. And that is an inherently nourishing, healing vibration for our bodies.
Right, right.
So you're
Yeah.
just tuning into it and going, okay, here we are. So I started doing that and that started helping me. But then I realized I have a lot of other healing to do. And I think essentially I was just a long process of quitting fighting the body and just surrendering and going, the body's always going to win.
Yeah. And it's
It's
beautiful.
always going to
It's
win.
actually on our side. That's the way I see
Yeah.
it. It
And
really
so
is.
fighting it isn't going to help me at all.
Mm.
And it's just going to cause me suffering because when the body's not happy, what happens? It hurts. And I don't like hurt. I don't like hurting. So I'm actually just very selfishly motivated to not be in pain all the time and figure out how to do that.
Hallelujah for selfishness, I think.
Yeah, but our whole culture is so body negative, and we kind of
Mm.
forgotten how to do that. And so I had to go study it. Like, how do I eat well? How do I exercise? How do I, sleep right? What does the body need actually? Like, I had no clue. I had to study it for years.
Well, and that leads me actually into the next inquiry, the next question, that I know through, it sounds like anyway, through that process, you studied a lot of different things, you went down a lot of different paths, you explored a wide array of modalities and possible answers. And I also know that you are a massage therapist, you are a dance practitioner. Would you call yourself practitioner, tantra, and then, of course, the peer counseling? And how did each one of those, or all of those, or the combination bring you to that place of what I'm hearing is self-love? Like really dropping into the body and loving yourself. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. I have further to go, but I'm definitely way more embodied and loving myself than I was when I was a young adult and a child. One of the most important things for me, one of the first steps, besides just being taught about how I could meditate and focus my mind, because I'm a kind of a mental person. So that was an easy in for me, was then working with the emotions. And so I discovered this group called Reevaluation Co-Counseling, which is a worldwide movement at this point. It started in the 50s, and they were basically teaching about how emotions get stuck in us and how they can be released, and had a really beautiful belief that we can heal from whatever's happened to us. So whereas a lot of traditional psychology, I've heard people say, well, something happens to you, you get a syndrome, you're kind of stuck with it, you just have to kind of manage it.
Mhm.
And this was a different idea. It was saying, well, no, we have an inherent wisdom, an inherent light that just gets covered up
Mhm.
by the stress and illusions. And we never lose that inherent truth and light. So, how do we uncover it becomes the question. It's like you're centering in your true being and learning how things change and how they can be released. And it turns out we have a natural healing process, just like our bodies naturally can heal from a wound, considering it's not too deep of a wound. We can, the skin heals up, it goes
Mhm.
back the way it was, basically. So, learning what the inherent healing process is for emotions was very helpful to me. And every child knows how to do it already. Something happens, you get a hit somehow on your body or your heart or your spirit, you get some kind of a distressing experience, and naturally a wave of energy comes through. It's energy in motion, emotion. And if you're in a safe enough place, or you have someone willing to hold space for you while that energy moves through you, it naturally releases and it's gone. And that looks like crying, laughing, screaming, shaking, yelling. You can watch little children, they do it all the time. They fall down, they go, and they start screaming and yelling, and they cry for 5 minutes. They go over to their mom, I fell down. Oh yeah, that was hard. And then they're like, bye, I'm happy now.
On that note, just to and maybe some clarification or some of your thoughts. I too, the word wounding sometimes is kind of problematic because we can change. We do have that inner light. We do have that, what I say, you're not broken. We just have some bad programming. But as a child, when we're not yet in a rational place where we can see things and make decisions, which are usually it's an and, you're not allowed to, or you're made to do, your processing in a certain way, or you're shamed for it. And, can you talk about what kind of layer that, I know we could talk for a couple hours on that one, but that's a big layer. Could you just kind of talk about it a little bit, and like maybe how your work can help address that for people?
It's mainly for adults. It's learning how to be comfortable having your emotions and having them in a way that isn't harming you or anyone else, because we have a very emotion negative culture. And
except for anger, it seems like.
Even then, it's like you're not supposed to have any emotions out in public. You have too many emotions, they lock you up. Or if they're out of control, so, and most of us grew up with this emotion negative culture. I remember I was totally into the books, The Little House on the Prairie and Laura Ingalls Wilder books when I was a child. And then I reread them as an adult, and I was amazed at how much they were shutting down their emotions. They were like, their goal was to never have emotions or show them to anyone. And I was like, wow, that's what I was reading when I was a child. That was everybody's experience back. Woo! So we've basically been told that emotions are not okay, that you need too much, you feel too much, you have to shut down, don't bother me. Lots of experiences like that as children. So as adults, we kind of have to unlearn that. And we do that by having someone else there encouraging us, going, tell me how you're feeling. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself cry. Let yourself move. Because bodies are emotions are very physical things. They move through your body. They have chemistry that gets released when you have emotions. Your brain does all kinds of stuff. It's a very physical thing to have emotions. And so mostly what we do because of that training in our early life is we hold it. We just hold it. We try not to have it. We try not to talk about it. Try not to show it to anyone. And then it builds up and builds up. And then it goes blam and explodes. And it's super messy.
Yes. How many times? Yep.
Yes. And so what we want to learn to do is let it explode safely within a contained experience, like a counseling session. But for me, it was really a lot of like, wow, I don't want to feel scared. I just don't want to feel it. How do I let myself feel it? And actually, like an animal would, the animals aren't afraid to feel their feelings. And how do I get back to that animal wisdom so that the emotions can flow through, so that they don't get locked into my being? Since a lot of my emotions were around being embodied, I had to work on that first. And I had to do things like go to dance classes. And I remember how hard it was for me to even move my body at all. Like I just did not want to do any physical education. I did not want to dance. I had to go and get coached and encouraged to just be doing anything physical. I'd much rather been sitting there reading a book or watching TV. And I know this is epidemic in our culture right now. Everybody's stuck on their phones and their screens. And but I just made it a goal, like, all right, I want to get into my body. I want to be present in it. and I want to learn what it wants and how it works. Because really, if you know how it works, it's not that hard to make it happy. And when it's happy, you're happy.
This is true. It's in what you're describing is, and you use this word, mentaholics, or
Right.
that our culture is mentaholic, very much stuck in the brain. And then what you're saying, that you had to consciously bring yourself into your body and seek out the ways to do that. And
Right.
what I'd love to have you do is talk about some of those ways, and then what you use with your clients or in your classes. What is it that you use, and how does that process work? Watching other people go through it.
Yeah, I'll definitely talk about that. I want to talk a little bit more about that first question where you said, how does it create illness?
Yeah, please, yeah.
Not be embodied. And for me, it was like one of the things that bodies need is movement. They're made to circulate energy. They're made to circulate blood and lymph. And if you just sit around all the time, it can't do that very well. And so you need to do movement, and you need to do a lot of different kinds of movements. And when we were living more primitive lives, we would have to go out and pick things and dig things up and run and do all kinds of different movements during the day. We were involved with our body a lot. And so we've kind of lost that. And when you don't move, things atrophy and they get stiff and they get stuck. And so learning about that, and also how much water do you drink, how much food do you eat, what kind of food. Like one of the things I discovered about 20 years ago was raw food. Like I eat mostly raw food, and I feel as a result at 68 years old, I don't have any pain in my body, chronic pain. And I got into it because I started thinking about it going, every other living thing on this planet besides us and our pets eats 100% raw food. Like we should think about that. Like, like maybe this is something we should consider, and they have way less chronic disease than we do. The animals, much less chronic disease,
right.
And so I was just thinking like, okay, maybe I need to get back to the way nature designed it a little bit more. And so as I look for ways to get healthier, I try to look for what is the most natural. But since I hadn't been doing that for a long time, and I hadn't been putting attention on my body, and I hadn't been eating well, and I hadn't been exercising, my body was degrading and nothing was very happy. And so it's like, as a spirit, the more attention I give my body, the more I'm present in my body, the more love and nourishment I give my body, the happier my body is, and the less pain I have, and the happier I am as in my emotional experience. So, yeah. I just wanted to say that.
No, that's great. Again, you're bringing it back to that awareness, that paying attention, asking the questions, the curiosity. We are in kind of a time where it is epidemic to just shut off, let somebody else tell you what to do, and not take responsibility.
Yeah, or just
what you're talking about is like major responsibility as well.
Right. Or just be distracted. Like, I don't want to think about my life. I want to just play games. I want to like watch little video reels about kitties. I still struggle with that.
They are pretty cute, some of them, I gotta say.
Still a mentaholic. I still like, it's an ongoing process of how to actually be present in this moment, and especially with a lot of people around me, and so much societal encouragement to just be in my head. And I was just watching, I just went to a class about the algorithms and how to use algorithms in advertising. They were saying that all algorithms are basically designed to keep you watching whatever you're watching as long as possible.
Right.
And they use all these different tricks to keep you on there. And that the average adult my age spends about 3 hours a day just on social media. And younger people, it can be 6 hours a day. So it's kind of an epidemic of mentalholism.
I had to take all of those social media apps off my phone. That's one way that I have combated that.
Because it's all about dopamine. And dopamine is that chemical that makes you feel excited and alert and like you want to do things. And every time something changes, you get a little dopamine hit. So every
Right.
time you have a new text or there's a new video or there's a new like on something, you get a little dopamine hit. And that's what keeps you hooked on it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean that's the dark side of dopamine, right? Is that it can lead you, or you can become addicted, quote, to things that are not good for you. There's a lot. I know there's a lot of other science around that, but that's a good general.
so I had to do a lot of emotional work about taking care of my body.
Mhm.
And why I didn't want to, and why I wanted to eat things that kept making me sick over and over and over again. I mean, it's like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting it to be different, the result to be different. And I could totally feel that going on in me. And I had to do a lot of emotional work to be able to make choices about my food addictions and my screen addictions. Why am I so attached to this particular thing? Where did it come from? Go back to my early childhood and work on it. And there's really great ways to do emotional work around addictions. You can bring something like ice cream to your session and have it there and look at it and talk about how much you want it, and not let yourself have it and just go,
Immersion therapy.
yeah, get your feelings out about it. So I did a lot of that. And as I was doing that, I was gradually able to have more free attention or energy to focus on what else to do and how to get my body moving. Like, because there was so much forcing me to move in physical education in school, I got a real resistance. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to play these stupid games. How can I actually move in a way that's enjoyable?
Yeah.
And so I figured that dance is a way that I can do that. Dance gives me all kinds of blissful feelings. So I explored dance for a while. One of the things that bodies need, human bodies anyway, is touch. We evolved in tribes. We need touch. And our culture kind of channels all the touch needs in this one little narrow channel of sex. Like, most people only get touched when they're having sex. And if they don't have anyone to have sex with, they never get touched, which creates this huge deficit. We get all kinds of pleasure chemicals in our brain from getting touched, even from snuggling. And it's a huge need, and so I started exploring, like, what about cuddle parties? What about massage? What about how can we help each other get that need met without having to get into a relationship and have sex? And so,
not that that's bad either, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But if that's your only way to have touching, unless you have a live-in partner that likes having sex with you a lot, you may end up feeling like you have a deficit of touching. And many people that work with me and come to my events have that. And we specifically set up events to make it safe to have some touch without having to get this deep emotional involvement in order to get your touch needs met.
Or feel like you have to have sex in order to get that need met.
Right,
Like
exactly.
that non sexual intimacy is what I've heard that kind of stuff called.
Right. It's really a deep need. So I think I've covered most of that question.
You've covered a whole lot, and we're going to drill down in a few of these things. But and what I was hearing in there is something else that you had said, or some statement you'd made about original instructions and how we've forgotten them, and the effect on our culture and on our bodies. And so, you're coming back to touch being a base need. All the experiments and research has been done around that with children, some of it not such great research actually, or great experiments. And then, going back to a more natural way of eating. I mean, in the very least, leaving the processed foods, and fried stuff and all of that, even if somebody can't quite get themselves to go all the way raw. And the movement, the dance, because that's just part of who we are as human beings, is we kind of naturally gravitate to rhythm, it seems like, and it's just such a beautiful expression. And I know you can probably talk deeper about this than I can, but how much can be expressed through movement non-verbally.
Right. Yeah.
And don't you also do like a Sufi dancing? Was that you?
I'm involved with the dances of universal peace, which are like spiritual folk dances, interfaith, from many different traditions. It's a very sweet practice. I also want to say that one thing bodies need is nature. And it ties in with that idea of original instructions. And I got that idea from studying some of the teachings from the Iroquois tradition in the Northeast USA. And they talk about how all of nature still remembers its original instructions from evolving out of the source. It's still doing what it evolved to do. And it's still in the sunlight, it's still rooting, it's the animals are still doing the things that they evolved to do. And they remember they're not disconnected from their bodies. I'm assuming I'm not an animal, but they sure look like they're connected to their bodies. They sure look like they're not embarrassed about their emotions or their needs.
Yeah.
And so the Iroquois are saying, like, we've somehow lost our way. We've lost our original instructions. And so if we go into nature and study nature, that's one of the fastest ways to find our original instructions, because it's all still doing it. It's all still flowing energy. It's all still burgeoning with life. It's all still doing its thing.
Cyclical and all of those.
Assuming it's healthy, you're in a healthy place in nature. You know, there are some destroyed places, mostly because of us, but from natural things too. And so to just go and sit with the plant and meditate on the plant and consider how it's living, or to hang out with an animal and tune into its consciousness. And it can help us go back to our animal self, because we are animals. We're human as well as beings, and we're primates. And so we've got all that primate instruction in us. And our culture is very much anti-animal, anti-body, anti-emotion.
Anti-nature.
Anti-nature. And this is very connected also to being anti-female, anti-women. And I think I'll talk more about that in a moment when you ask me some other questions. But finding that original instruction, like it's like a pattern, a natural pattern that underlies everything. And if you start going back to the things that have been going on for hundreds of thousands of years, you still have that in your DNA. You still have those original patterns. And these other patterns that may be less healthy can dissolve and repattern themselves. Because we are so flexible as human beings. Our brains are flexible, our bodies are flexible. Amazing things can change and come back into health if we decide we really want to focus on that.
I really love hearing you say all of that, because, I mean, I think we've known this forever, and there's many traditions that talk about it, you know, whether it's Taoism or, you know, Ayurveda, any of these kind of traditions talk about going back to your natural self, or, you know, in this case, the original instructions. What I find amazing as well is that a lot of the new research is proving the same things, you know, in so many different ways, you know, and you know, maybe it speaks more to our rational mind and we can grasp it a little bit more, or maybe it's really exciting because it's not just, you know, if you pray to the goddess and, you know, then these things happen, but you kind of understand being, well, yeah, there's a chemical process, there's a hormone process, there's, you know, the emotions caught up in the musculature and all that. So it's just, I was just one other thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about, you know, connecting to the animals and to the plants. I have experienced that, and I love, you know, whenever I see something, a deer or a crow or something, I'm, hey, how you doing? But there's a sense, what it was, it regenerates that sense of how we are a part of all of this. It's not nature and humans. It's like we are nature, and you get that reciprocity. That's how I've felt it and experienced, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And becoming embodied is about how we are connected in our body, how we're part of it, how we're one with it. And feeling the sense of, wow, I have a home in the physical plane. This is my best friend. This is a friend that's constantly evolving. This is a friend that is never the same. It's constantly changing. All the cells are dying and getting reborn again. But the basic pattern of this friend changes more slowly and evolves over time. And I won't have this friend forever. This friend is not immortal. So I want to use every moment I have to experience with this friend in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just great. I love that. I want everybody to know this.
Yeah.
Like you said, this is curriculum that should be taught in school right from the beginning. But like it actually takes us into this other idea of embodiment as radical spirituality. I mean, I guess that's one way we can talk about it. And in some of your work, you contrast transcendence with eminence or embodied spirituality. And I'm just wondering if you can sort of break that concept down a little bit. And then I think you have a poem that you might want to share with us.
Well, in all native traditions all over the world, people experienced spirit as eminent, present in this moment. And they would do rituals around the moon and the sun and the plants, and they were relating to like real things and loving them and honoring them. Someone asked Starhawk, who's a teacher in the Wiccan tradition, asked her, well, do you believe in God? It's like, there's nothing to believe in. It's all around me. I just have to look at my hand. It's like, look at this thing that's manifest, it's imminent right here. Can you explain how this got here? What is the force that created it? It's not something, far away. And the Sufis say God is as close as your jugular vein. No, it's right there. It's right in the middle of everything. It's not something far away. And somehow there became a spiritual theme or idea, especially rising from the various religions in the Middle East, of transcendence. Like, well, this world isn't great. This is like kind of a bad place owned by evil spirits and the devil. And we just have to kind of survive long enough and do the right things. And then we'll get into heaven and then we'll be happy. So it's this whole kind of like, do these things and then you'll get into heaven. And then eventually you'll feel good and have all your needs met, which sounds like kind of a bad deal to me.
So somebody calls it the rapture ideology. It's like,
right.
I can just kind of I can earn my way to a better life.
Right. Especially since the things you're supposed to do to be good usually have to do with following societal rules, giving money to people so that you can, get absolved of your sins. If you come in with the idea that you are originally bad, you are originally a sinner, then your whole existence is about how can I make myself better? How can I excuse the fact that I'm a sinner? And how can I buy my way into heaven? How can I, get people to like me? It's all about having to perform instead of just feeling yourself as natural and feeling your own emotions and your needs and your animal self as a natural good thing. You come in with this feeling of shame. And shame is a great motivator. It's a great way to get people to follow your rules.
Exactly.
And, if everyone was embodied and full of self-love, they would not put up with all of the crap that's going on right now. People have to be beaten down and feel bad about themselves in order to put up with the stuff that's happening.
And it just creates this constant cycle, this begets this and this begets this. And, so I'm angry and not embodied. I'm going to take it out on you. And then you are going to take it out on somebody else, or we're just be in this big spiral. And that's what that's what it feels like is going on right now.
Yeah, and this has been going on for so long, and there's so much deeply ingrained shame about the body and about sexuality. In the Middle Ages, it was super deep. Like, for example, if a woman had a baby, she wasn't allowed to go to church for several months after that, because just having a baby made her unclean, right? So she had to go get purified from having this experience of a baby coming out. Wow. Like, how did we get that far away from honoring sacred birth and just honoring life, and very strong teachings and ideas about how anything having to do with women or sexuality was inherently bad and they would lead you off the path of goodness. You never get into heaven. Just we don't even realize how deeply these things are in our subconscious, unless you go back and you read history, especially women's history and the stuff that was going on. Even like my grandparents, I could see it so deeply ingrained in them. And I just feel grateful that all of those people who are my ancestors lived their lives, got through it, managed to reproduce, and give me a chance to be here now.
Right.
Where I actually have a chance to get the information I need and the practices I need to get out of some of those unhealthy thought patterns and physical patterns.
That is just so perfect because, that idea of the body being bad or coming in as original sin and really we spending our whole life to get out of it, or that transcendence piece it's like self-hate. It's like body hate, and then, coming into the body and that love, if you will, or just understanding the eminence, we are right here in it all the time. There's no place to transcend to necessarily, and
Right.
just how that changes our relationship to ourselves, to nature, to each other, and to our bodies, obviously.
Yeah, let's take a little moment to do a meditation on immanence.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I'll read you a poem that I wrote, or you could say channeled it. I have the experience of it coming through me when these words come. But you could close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it begins with a prayer. The poem is called Just Look. It begins with my personal prayer, which is, I want to see you, source of all the time in everything. I want my mind to dwell on your glory and my heart to beat in deep awe and leave behind these veils of forgetting. How is it possible to always remember? Just look for it. Take the time to notice. Look deeper. Look at the backstory of every manifested thing. That ordinary wooden shelf sitting in my room, it was handled in a factory that shaped it. The factory was made by hundreds of people with technology that took thousands of years to develop. As the human mind developed, that wood was carried by someone who drove it from a lumber yard. And before that, it was cut from a forest. And before that, it was a living thing, stretching its body to absorb the sun, drinking deeply from the earth, growing from some unknowable magic from a tiny seed. And before that, it was elements of mineral and water and photons. And under that, it vibrates in parts so tiny we can't discern if they're waves or particles held together by some great will in a cosmic pattern. Everything is a miracle with a long history of how it came to be. Every person is a multifaceted, multidimensional, mysterious, ever-changing universe. Just look. Nothing is mundane.
Wow. I will say that took me places.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Amazing. That was great.
Thank you.
And how would you guide somebody to get the most out of it, out of that kind of a meditation?
I would start with your own body, doing a sensory meditation, because there's things going on all the time. Your body's there doing its thing all the time. You're mostly not paying attention to it at all because it's all happening subconsciously. And your mind's off doing a million other things in the future and the past. But right now in your body, your heart is beating. You could focus on that feeling. Your breath is moving. You can focus on that feeling. Your muscles are probably relaxed in some places and tense in other places. You could focus on relaxing those. And somewhere in your body, there's a pleasurable feeling happening, and you can focus on that. So a meditation where you're actually just tracking all of the body sensations and staying present with that is really useful. Sometimes I have people do this in dyads, and we just say to each other, what are you aware of now? And they say, oh, I can feel the pressure where I'm sitting. And what are you aware of now? Well, now I can feel that my eyes are a little tight. And you just keep asking each other back and forth. And you can drop into a very deep state just doing that. Just like tuning into all the stuff that's going on right now. It's a beautiful meditation. In fact, one way to stop your mind from spinning and buzzing is to try to meditate on more than one sensation at a time. So you're getting a whole bunch right now.
There's no time to think of it, your
No.
nasty aunt. You're just like,
it engages,
like sensory overload, it sounds like.
Yeah, it engages your mind, and it gives it something to do.
Mm-hmm.
So right now you're getting visual information.
Mm-hmm.
You're hearing things, you're feeling sensations on your skin. So if you try to do 2 or more of those at the same time and just focus on them all, your mind will be very busy.
Very busy. Well, there's they say, the people that know these things, that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million bits of information coming through your body at any given second.
Wow.
And our conscious mind, can only handle about 40. But bringing that awareness into that kind of a focus, it's kind of like a Vipassana. You feel the breath move over your lip in and out, and you just that's all you focus on for the first 3 days.
Right.
and then all this other stuff floods in your body, and it's visceral and it's nonverbal. So what you're showing, it feels like is a real doorway into that place where you can open up your sensation-based awareness.
And even doing things like just lightly stroking your skin and focusing, because when you lightly stroke your skin, you're getting 2 sensations. You've got one in your finger and one in the other part of your skin. Right. And so can you feel them both at the same time?
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting thing to focus on. When I was young and I started having sex, I realized I really like sex. And not only because it's just pleasurable, but because it brings my mind into my body.
Right.
If the sensations are so powerful that I'm kind of forced to pay attention to my body. It is possible to space out even during sex, but it's less likely for me anyway. And so using that as a meditation, I think is a lot of what Tantra is.
Yeah. Could you, or if you want to, talk about your tantric training or how the principles of Tantra bring us into this place of radical self-acceptance, body, remembering the body connection, spiritual connection.
Yeah, I think a lot of Tantra for me is being able to be in all of my energy centers, to be complete and whole. We've kind of been trained to the only good energies are from the heart up. Those are the spiritual ones. Right. And then everything down below is just kind of, shameful and suspicious, and you can't trust it and all of that stuff. And so I just figured, my original instructions include a body that has a wide range of energies. I've got an animal self, I've got an emotional self, I have an intellectual self, I have a spiritual self. All of those things are part of me. I can focus on them more or lesser extent, but I want to feel them all at once. I want to integrate them. I don't want to be sitting up in my head and looking down and going, you guys are bad down there.
Well, and that, it sounds like, what you're talking about is the compartmentalization of our bodies and the cutoff and right. The head up, neck down, and all of that kind of, and then what you're bringing in is to unify, or to actually just become aware of that it is a unified whole that we are living with, this
right
system of our bodies.
And not only that it's unified, but that it's all sacred, like trusting your emotions, trusting your body is essentially trusting spirit, because what made it?
Well, spirit, right? The word spirit came from breath, breath, that's etymology. And breath is, you've even spoken to that, the primal piece of that integration or sensation, or becoming aware of the sensations.
Yeah. And I think that essentially the great lie, the biggest illusion that is so relevant and inside our culture is I am bad. Some version of I am bad. Either my spirit is bad, my emotions are bad, my body is bad. And so healing in my experience is really just coming back to understanding my own goodness, my own godness, and the more I can do that on all. Yeah.
You and Chagram Chungpa, that's
Yeah.
what a basic
It's
idea.
like, and you could argue things either way. You could say, oh yeah, I'm actually bad and evil, and I have all these things that I've done that have been awful, and maybe the physical world is terrible. But you can also argue it the other way, that we're in this miraculous thing that's been created by spirit over billions and trillions of years, and maybe we should have faith in what it did. It's like, it's pretty kind of amazing, this world,
Right.
and everything that's in it. Maybe we should admire it, and you could decide to believe either way. There's evidence on both sides. But I just decided at some point, I'm going to believe that I'm good and it's good, because things work better that way. It's just purely practical. Things work better when I choose to believe that I am good and what made me is good. And the way my body is shaped is good. The things that are happening in my life have purpose, they have meaning. Like I said, you could argue it both ways, but I just choose to believe that because things are much more comfortable and they work better. Things flow when I make that assumption. And I think the universe rewards us when we're going in the right direction. There's like built-in reward system in our lives and in the universe, that when we go in a direction that's positive, that's what we need to learn, that's towards life and towards love.
Yeah.
And we naturally get rewarded by good feelings.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we've been taught that, we're bad, and that even feeling good is somehow bad.
Right.
That somehow that your desires are wrong, and it's just such an insane way of living.
People have been taught for hundreds and hundreds of years that life is suffering, and it should be suffering because you're inherently bad, so you should suffer.
This is a school, and you're here to get better so you can transcend. Right. And then, obviously too, I just have to bring this in, the technology that rides on that idea of not being good and says, well, really, we can figure out how to do it better. Even after, like you said, billions of years of development and testing, and they're like, no, you can't. That can't be right. Here, let's do it better.
Let's mess with it. Yeah, I understand that it's just part of the natural evolution of power. Mm-hmm. Because I think of us all as little fragments of God energy. We're like little godlings in training.
Yeah.
And so we're learning how to create our reality. And so we're messing with stuff, we're like, oh, how does the physical plane work? Well, we could move these molecules and these DNAs around, and we could do stuff, and we can make these chemicals. And it's just that we could be doing the same thing and not hurting ourselves and the world so much if we were a little more emotionally mature. Because we're not emotionally mature. We're rather self-centered and greedy, and we have a lot of sense. We have a sense of disconnection from everything else, and that we are the most important things on the planet.
It's kind of a weird thing, right? Entitlement and disconnect happens.
Right. And so somehow becoming more emotionally mature and understanding that we're not separate from everything else. We're actually all connected to each other and ourselves and everything else, and that everything we do affects everything else. And that's important. Like, if we could be in that state, we could still be messing with stuff, but we wouldn't be doing it with a motivation of greed for money. And I think that's really a lot of what's creating a lot of the disharmony and distress and suffering in the world. We're just not emotionally mature. So that was one of the reasons I started learning emotional work before anything else. It's like, I was like, wow, human emotions are like messing this world up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And it actually, because you wrote a book, right, called Heartbeat Nurturing Therapy. And what I kind of understand of it, I haven't read it. I'm sorry. I didn't even know that you had written it until just recently, but I will. But that it's based on the peer counseling, but it is, it's meant to help guide people into this place that you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a form of peer counseling that you can do with your family and your friends that involves cradling the person so that their head is on your heart and they can hear the heartbeat. because the heartbeat has a very powerful effect psychologically. It gets you into a light trance state. And in that trance state, you can do hypnotic suggestions that repattern your deep beliefs that you adopted when you were a child. So the idea is kind of regress people into a childlike state, hold them, and then say affirmations that they have given you to tell them. So it's a very deep process, and it's easy to do. It's really easy, and you can use it with friends and with therapists. And I actually used it with my mother when she was passing. She wanted me to give her some of that therapy because she was a therapist herself.
Okay.
And it was just very beautiful to do that in her last weeks. So that book outlines that. And then my other book is called Heart to Heart, Hand in Hand. And it's basics about how to do peer counseling. It's kind of a huge manual. And it's actually not really easy to learn how to do peer counseling from a book. It's much better to take a class. But I wrote the book because I can't teach that many classes. So, at least the information's out there for people that might have someone to practice with them and help them learn those skills of being comfortable with their own emotions, letting emotions flow through you in a way that's safe.
But you are teaching, right? I mean, you have some teachings coming up, actually.
Yeah, I teach, but I'm not teaching thousands of people at a time. I'm just teaching a few dozens at a time. And we could talk
I've gotten
about
to take some of your classes, really enjoyable, definitely.
Thank you.
And I'm remembering now, I actually did some peer counseling classes and work when I was there in Hawaii, in there at the community, but also in something else that happened on Maui. It was another event. You know how it is over there. There's always some kind of event going on.
Yeah.
So,
did you want me to talk about the things coming up?
Well, yeah, we could talk about that now, but I'm still really interested in exploring the peer counseling a little bit more, and why is it so powerful, which you've kind of gone through, but if you want to drop into that a little bit more, and
You could do that.
yeah, let's explore that a little bit more.
The thing about peer counseling is you're not only learning to counsel someone else, which is basically holding space while you stay calm and centered and encouraging them to go into their feelings and explore whatever they want to explore inside themselves. And there's many techniques for doing that. You're also learning how to be a client. So that's like, how do I get the most out of my session when it's time for me to get attention? How do I access those places where I have stuck energy and where I want to change my habits? How do I do that efficiently? And so I get the most out of my hour of time as a client. So we're teaching both things, and it really is involving emotional mastery. So you learn how to be comfortable with your emotions and allow yourself to feel them deeply. And I can say, after doing this for many, many years, any emotion can feel pleasurable if you're feeling it fully with no restrictions.
Wow. Yeah.
If you don't have guilt around it, if you don't have fear around it, and it's really just flowing through and someone is holding space, it can feel pleasurable because that release is inherently pleasurable.
So you're not denying it, which I think from earlier in, with that sort of that resistance or that denial of it blocks that and then can create all kinds of havoc.
Right. And most people, like, you can only get a little bit of emotion squeaking out, like barely a few tears, and you can't really just like let yourself go unless you relearn it. You have to relearn how to do that. And so people go to various events to learn emotional release so that they have access to the full range of what they were born with. Right. We all have the right to feel all of our feelings. It's built in. Why can we not feel them? That's like not natural. It's like we want to get back to that natural state. So not only getting in touch with them, but also choosing when to get in touch, to get into them, and when not to, because there's definitely a lot of times in this world that are not good to get into your emotions. Don't want to start breaking down in the middle of the restaurant or whatever. People get concerned. So how do you have enough emotional mastery and flexibility to be able to go in and out of them.
So one of the things that in that work, where people can bring focus to is pain in their body. And how can someone listening start to practice body acceptance like right now, even if they're in pain?
Yeah, actually, pain is one of the major blocks for most people about being embodied. Because if you have not been paying attention to your body for quite a while, it's probably in pain somehow. And so then the first thing that happens when you pay attention to your body is you feel the pain. Ow, why would I want to be focusing on this? And a lot of modern medicine is just numbing pain, so we don't have to feel it. But unfortunately or fortunately, pain is a signal from the body that it needs your attention. It's saying, hey, I need some help over here. Could you focus on this, please? Having some issues. Because when your consciousness focuses on a part of your body, it gives it energy. It brings energy to it, brings blood to it, it brings electricity to it. And that is inherently helpful to the body tissues. And so I think we have to redo our attitude about pain instead of it just being this annoying thing that we have to get rid of. And we have no idea why it's there, and we can't figure out why it's there or what it wants. It's to greet it with compassion. Go, oh, you're hurting. What can I do for you? Tell me about it. And actually, as you listen inside your body, it will talk to you and it will give you instructions, and just your focus, your loving attention on the part that is painful will help it release. And I've seen many, many examples of this, and people healing really, really quickly when they just go into feeling the pain, letting their emotions out about the pain, if they have them, and letting the energy unstick out of the body. So would you like to try doing?
I was going to say, I have some painful spots in my body that absolutely,
Yes.
I would love to do that. So yes, guide me through.
Let's go into it. And just to say that you can tell your body, your animal self, that he is now free to move and make sounds and have emotions to the extent that you feel safe being recorded.
I'll keep my clothes on.
That's probably a good idea.
Would it be better if I stood up or sitting down?
I think, okay, you can do it sitting down. I mean, you can decide, let your body decide. One of the best things you can do with getting into your animal self is authentic movement. And authentic movement is simply moving without thinking about it. You do not make any decisions from your mind. You let your body move the way it wants to move.
You know what? I'm going to stand up.
Yeah.
I'm going to adjust things just a little bit here. Yeah. Yeah, that feels better. Definitely.
Yeah. So you might want to close your eyes because it's kind of easier to internalize. And then direct your attention to your body and go, hello, what needs attention here? How can I help you? And then allow your body to do whatever he wants to do. Just let him move without thinking about it and without judging it. You have an inherent animal wisdom.
I'm really feeling my low back here, and I thought it was my knee, but what's really speaking to me is this. There's the knee.
Yeah. And describe the pain because it's helpful to release it if you.
So standing here and moving, it's not too bad, but as soon as I bend over, move to the side, little twists, I can just feel it it feels like it wants to seize up, or like it's trying to hold me in place because there's not enough strength to make it.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. So if you could actually let that part of your body talk, like say, I don't feel like there's enough holding me in place. What would it say if it could talk?
You sit too much and you need to move more and get me more limber. And I'm a little pissed off at you for not doing that.
It's okay. Let that pissed off feeling be there, and you can even move with it if you want to. If it was going to move a little, maybe it's helpful to shake your hands and your arms. Anger is nice to release with large motor movements. So it's saying, like, why are you sitting around so much, buddy? Just keep moving and letting your body move and any angle, anything it wants to do. This is time for your body. Just let your animal self be free. Let him out of the cage for a moment. Your animal self's very wise. knows things that our conscious mind doesn't know. And breathing, making sounds is helpful too. Good. Any other emotions coming up?
Yeah, kind of a sadness for not being in nature and barefoot and in the water.
Just take deep breath into that. You're missing it. You're missing the beautiful nature, the healing qualities of nature.
Animal movement, like everything wants to move all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I've been sitting still too long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just let it move. This is one of the best practices you can do for embodiment, just even 5 or 10 minutes a day. Just do authentic movement and let things make sounds and wiggle and quit being a grown up.
Don't get accused of that very often.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Why don't you finish that up and then take a breath? Is there anything that your being wants to say to your body? Say thank him for talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I feel buzzing going through my body and into my fingertips.
How do you feel?
Happier. Like there really is like a expansion in the chest and the
nice
release here in the belly. Cautious, like don't forget this, like do this, go get in nature, go.
Yeah, you can anchor that in your body by tapping somewhere in your body. When you want to remember something, just kind of tap on someplace for a moment and go, okay, I'm cementing this into the physical form. I need to spend a little more time with the animal in nature. Great. How do you feel?
I feel much better.
That was just a few minutes.
And I tell you, Amara, and I know these things and I forget.
Yes.
It's beautiful to be reminded and brought back to it. It's like,
or as they say in Hawaii, in the past, I have forgotten.
Okay.
And so how is your pain now?
Yeah, the back, the low back definitely feels more, I would say, loose and trusting. Like there's, like I can move, bend forward, and it doesn't feel like it's, seizing.
Right. It's going to seize.
Wow. Thank you for that. Oh my God. And, I hope people out there are just picking this up and embodying this. It's just so simple.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's just,
yeah.
And it's fun.
It's
put on some music.
Just have to get through a few thousand years of programming. That's all.
Exactly. Well, we're coming to the end of this here, and I feel like there's hours and hours and hours of conversation that could be happening, and we can do this again. And I would love to just deepen into this and your work, and because I think there's a lot. There's just so much there. I know that. I just know. There's so much there. And so what I would love to actually have you talk a little bit about before we get off is what is coming up for you in work, places where people might be able to find you, connect with you, how they might connect with you online. And do you have online classes? I think I saw some that were there.
Yeah, I think you're going to post some things along with this video that are linked.
All the links will be going down into the show notes. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I do have some free introductory classes on self-pelvic massage, because the pelvis is a place that holds a lot of shame and a lot of emotional stuckness, and on psychic self-care, how to manage yourself with meditation and energy, and some on beginning peer counseling. And what's coming up next for me is the Oregon Tantra Festival, which is June 10th and it's near Portland. It's about an hour outside of Portland. And I'll be there with 8 other teachers, and we'll just be doing a whole bunch of yummy stuff, a whole bunch of embodiment and connectivity stuff. And I'll be doing heartbeat nurturing therapy introduction. And I'm also going to do a slideshow where I teach about Taoist practices and sexual anatomy. It's called Secrets of Your Erotic Body.
Why don't I just get up there just for that?
And then I'll be coming back in July, the end of July, August, and September. I'll be doing a whole series of events all in the Northwest. So it'll be Eugene and Portland and Seattle area. And those are on my website.
Okay, we're going to ask you.
For amarakaruna.com. Actually, those are on my Karuna retreats, karuna-retreats.com. If you look under the Loving Connections tab, there'll be my whole summer schedule. You can also just get that directly by joining my email list. Both of my websites have email sign-ups, and then
It's the same.
Very occasional emails.
It's the same list, though, whether you sign, whichever place you sign, you get all the same information. Yeah, definitely want to get people signed up on that.
Yeah, I'll be teaching various different things all through the summer because I have many different events, but they're all having to do with presencing and somatics and touching each other and loving each other.
Yay. More of that, please.
Yes.
So is there anything in particular that is really, well, we asked this question at the beginning of the show, but maybe worded a little bit different, something that you're like really passionate about, like you really want people to connect with?
I usually just want people to connect with whatever their next step is. And I don't have a strong preference for anything that I teach. And so it's more like, what are you called to? Where's the area that you need more support with? I do individual sessions on Zoom. That is something else that I do.
Okay, good.
For couples and individuals, any form of emotional work, and also specifically around sexuality issues.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Well, I can attest to your prowess as a coach for sure. So that's
Thank you.
Encourage people to take you up on that. Well, is there any last words you'd like to leave our audience with at this point?
Just everything you do to take care of yourself is a radical act. It's world changing, and it goes against the whole flow of negativity. And the first place to start is yourself, your emotions, and your body. And anything you can do along those lines is going to move you forward in a positive direction. So don't give up.
Don't give up. Radical self-care.
Even though it seems like it's just a tiny little thing that you're doing, tiny little things add up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Amara. It is really good to see you again. And thank you so much for coming here and imparting your wisdom and your experience for the whole audience to be able to take in. And hopefully people are picking up some tools to take home and maybe some directions that they're going to want to explore in the future.
I hope so.
I know I have gotten both. So
wonderful. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you. We'll see you. Okay.
Yes. Many blessings.